sounds of things, you have an ownership group that wants to win and is willing to let him spend right up to the Stanley Cup. This is not them being him being the bad cop because that's what ownership wants, and he has to be the person that breaks the bad news to Malkin and Letang and has to lowball their offers. It sounds like he thinks it's prudent hockey business to not get wrapped up in a 5-year deal for Letang or to give Malkin something close to $6 or $7 million a year. And I think both are big-time mistakes. They're not going to find anybody even close to Letang in free agency. He's a 35-year-old on his birth certificate, but he's probably in a 30-year-old man's body. He's going to play well into his late 30s and maybe even his 40s. So shame on him if he won't go 5 years. Malkin should get 3 years, and if he's unwilling to do it, I would fire him, and I would find somebody else who's willing to meet what those guys want.
And there are options on the free agent market in the case of centers, but I agree with your assessment about Letang.
Not really.
They have.
I disagree. I completely disagree with that. There's one guy, everybody says Vinny Trocheck, and they're keeping their fingers crossed that he wants to come back and play in Pittsburgh. But guess what? Get past him. Give me another center who's even remotely
you
close
can also trade.
There's not a guy.
Well, I was referring to Vinny Trocheck. That's who I was referring to.
Well, right. That's all people say. There's one other guy. That's it. That's not enough.
Bottom line is they can find centers by trade in other ways. If they believe that the money that they're offering Malkin is fair and he doesn't want to take it, that's up to him. But in the case of Letang, he is a guy who is irreplaceable right now on their roster. They have nobody who's capable of doing what he does, and that would include John Marino or Mike Matheson or anyone else. Matheson is close to being that guy, but I trust Letang more. And if you lose him, now you got to find somebody who occupies those minutes. That's going to be very difficult to do. And to your point, he's 35 going on 25, it looks like to me. He's in tremendous shape. Why would you not bet? And we've seen examples of guys who play into their 40s. It's not unusual today to have that happen.
He honestly deserves a raise. He should make more than $7 million. That's what the market would pay him. So meet the demands of a guy who's one of your best defensemen in franchise history, if not the very best in franchise history. And as far as Malkin goes, look, he's not Kadri, who no one talks about him coming here because he's going to get more than $10 million a year, and he's a 31-year-old, so he's not even a realistic option. Trocheck, you hope for the hometown discount, and if you strike out on him, you're left with Jeff Carter, which gets me back to Ron Hextall. I cannot believe that this ownership group looked at his resume as Penguins GM and said, yeah, we're good with this guy. Keep on doing what you're doing, Ron. I don't trust his plan. His plan in Philadelphia was to basically hoard all my draft picks, keep all my good young players. This isn't the time for patience with the Penguins, Bob. No. Their best player's 35 years old.
And he's also
I don't want
in
him
Philadelphia.
Being
he drafted guys who weren't good enough. He missed on a lot of big names that he could have had too. So
I agree with you. And you know what my biggest issue with Hextall, and that's if Josh is right, and maybe we're still 16 days away. Maybe deadlines will spur action from Hextall, and he'll beef up his offers. But I just get the distinct impression that he thinks that, you need us more than we need you. You've got to agree to it. Okay, they got lucky with Brian Rust. He took a team-friendly deal. These guys aren't obligated to do the same thing.
No, especially toward the end of it. But I think he's banking on them being still part of this legacy, and that is where he may make a mistake. We got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll talk more money, and that's about wide receiver money in the NFL. It continues to go skyward, and it continues to make you wonder about Deontay Johnson. That's next right here as we continue live. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, Pittsburgh CW and 93.7 The Fan.